What's up everyone, welcome back. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to integrate reCaptcha into your React applications. We'll be showing you how to do this by going over a simple example, as you can see here, with a simple React application with a Node backend that actually integrates a reCaptcha feature to make sure that the user is not a spam user before they log into our application. And I'll be walking you through end to end of how to get this set up from the front end to the back end to integrating the key Google provides you to actually set up this reCaptcha feature. Now, for those of you guys who know or don't know, before we get into it, CAPTCHA actually stands for Completely Automated Public Turing Test to Tell Computers and Humans Apart. Basically, it's a type of challenge response to prevent spam users or automations from spamming your application and therefore potentially harming or infiltrating your app maliciously. So this is a good mechanism, and thankfully Google provides a reCaptcha version of this, which is a more advanced version of CAPTCHA that we can really easily integrate into our apps within a matter of just a few steps. And I'll be showing you how to do that in this video. So the working example by the end of it will be that we can actually just sign into our app, and before we sign in, we actually have to verify with this reCaptcha. So this has to be checked. As you can see, traffic lights, it makes us check these traffic lights, and motorcycle, so we can do all this. You've probably seen this on a bunch of websites. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that, and then verify, and then if I do everything successfully, it will allow me to log in. You can just ignore this. The password was actually just password. It's not a fancy password. And that is what we will be doing in today's tutorial. So if you want to integrate reCaptcha seamlessly into your applications, this is the video for you guys. So enough being said, I do not want to waste any of your time. Let's jump into it and dive into our React and Node side of things to show you the code we need to integrate this feature into our applications. Okay, so first things first, we just want to set up an empty project folder. Now I'm in Visual Studio Code, and we just want to go through the steps to set up our back end and our front end. So our front end will be in React, and I am just going to put a command here in the terminal to actually set up our React front end. So we'll let that go ahead and run. And by the way, all the commands I'll be running in this video are in my tutorial link down below. So if you cannot follow along quickly, or you just don't want to copy all the commands, you can go ahead to that tutorial and go and find those commands as well. So we are creating the React app. And after we actually create this React app, we're going to want to install some packages, some for development and some for Google reCaptcha and other features such as Axios, to actually communicate with our back end as well. So we'll just give this a brief moment here and let it create the app. It does take a few minutes, and we'll get back to it once it is done. Okay, so now that the React app is created, we just want to install some packages. We can go ahead and run this command to install these packages that we need to run this application. Okay, so that should take a quick moment there. And we're using React Hostify to actually display messages in our application easily. React Hostify is a good front-end library to easily display card messages on the top right corner to show if the user is doing something right or show that there is some sort of error. So now that we actually created the front end, now we just want to go ahead and create the back end. So I'm just going to run a series of commands to actually do this. So first of all, let's just go to this terminal, and we are just going to go back a directory, make the backend, and then go into that backend. And I'm actually going to zoom in for you guys a little bit here just to make sure you guys can see. Sorry if at the beginning it was a little zoomed out. So I'll zoom in one more time to show you these commands here. And then we can go ahead and run npm init/y to actually create the Node application, and then we can install some libraries we need as well for that Node application. So just some very basic libraries, Express to create an Express backend. We have some other things as well, such as .env, because we want to read from the environment. We're going to be using CORS. CORS is a really popular library that allows you to have some protection for your backend. JSON Web Token, we'll be installing JSON Web Token because when a user signs in, we want to provide them with a JSON Web Token. And of course, we want to use NodeMon as well to be able to make edits as we are developing easily. So now that we have our backend and we have our front end integrated or created, we can go ahead and go to Google reCaptcha and actually create a site. So I'm just going to show you this here. So I just opened this link, google.com reCaptcha admin create, and of course this link is in my blog down below. And what we could do is we can either create a v2 or a v3. Let's just go ahead and do v2, I'm not a robot, that's the simplest one, or you can do a v3, and then we could just add a label. We could just say React YouTube demo. And then if we want to test it with localhost, we can just type in localhost. Otherwise, you can add other hosts as well if you're actually using this in production. So you can add your host URL. And then it assigns us a project name. So this is under our Google Cloud Platform account. And then once we have everything created here, we can just go ahead and click submit. So really seamless there, as we saw. And then we just want to take this site key and we want to take this secret key, and let's just store it in somewhere local for now, because we'll be using this in our app in a second here. I'll be showing you where to integrate those, but really these are important for our front end and back end environments to be able to successfully actually use the reCaptcha and make it all come together. So now that we have this, let's go back into our app and show you what else we have to do to get this to work. Okay, so now that we have our reCaptcha keys, let's go back into our application here, and let's first go to our backend folder and create a new environment file where we want to place our key. So we'll just call it CAPTCHA secret key, and we can just place this key that we got from creating the CAPTCHA on Google Cloud. So I'm just going to save it there. That is the secret key in the back end. And in the front end, we'll create another environment variable .env here, where we can actually save the site key. So we have the site key here, and we want to call it React app CAPTCHA site key. So we could just do this and save that as well. And also in the back end, what we want to do is we want to have a JWT secret key. Now this is not related to the CAPTCHA, but this is just when the user signs in, we just want to give them a key, because a lot of applications are key based. So when a user signs in, it'll sign a token to them based on this key. And this is just a dummy token. Really, you want a more sophisticated secret for this, but this is just to simulate what would happen if a user actually signs into your applications. So we have the JWT secret key, the CAPTCHA secret key in the back end and the front end. We have the site key. Now that we have that, next we just want to create the files to be able to actually run the application as I showed you at the beginning. So let's go ahead and first create the backend files and the endpoints. First, let's actually set up a server.js file. So server.js is just going to actually run the server with the endpoint. So really simple server.js file that I'm just going to copy with some code I have here. And I'll just briefly explain what this code is doing. So basically it has some imports here, and it's going to create an Express application with some cores. So cores, as I mentioned, is a library that integrates some safety for your application. So if you want to implement cores policies, you can read more about that online. It's a really common library to use for your Express applications to enhance security. And then also what we have here is we have the simple login endpoint, which the user is going to execute when they hit that login button from the front end, and it's going to take the email and password. And if the email and password is equal to this specific email and password, which is not very versatile, of course, for your own applications, you want to make this more robust and be able to sign in any user. So if it is equal to those email and password, as you see here, it's going to sign them a JWT token and return to them that token. Now, one thing we're going to note that's really important here is we're going to integrate a verify CAPTCHA middleware, which we'll set up right now. So it's going to be in this middleware folder. So for those of you guys who don't know, if you're beginners watching this tutorial, middleware is essentially code that is executed before the final step of your endpoint is executed. So before the user can actually verify their email and password, we're going to set up this middleware code that's going to take the body from the application. So it's going to take the CAPTCHA from the front end and verify it in Google to make sure everything is okay. So let's go ahead and set up a new folder here called middleware, and I'll show you what's in that file. So we can just go ahead and create a new file there called reCaptcha middleware.js. And in that file, simply what it is, it's really basic code that takes the CAPTCHA from the front end. So it's this function here pretty much that we're going to use in that login endpoint. And it's going to take the request.body, which should have a CAPTCHA string or a CAPTCHA object. And it's going to send it to the Google API. And it's going to take that secret key we set up in the environment and it's going to pass the CAPTCHA from the body. And thankfully, Google makes it really easy. All you have to do, as you see here, is pass the secret key and the CAPTCHA. And if it is successful, it'll move to the next step, which is to simply verify that the user's credentials are good. So that's how you properly integrate a CAPTCHA within your endpoints, is you set them up as a middleware before the actual endpoint can be executed to be sure that the user is not a spam user. So that's what we have in the back end. Now let's move to the front end to show you what we need to render that login form that I showed you. So we could just go here, let's just go and close that out. And we are just going to go to the source folder and create a new file called login.js. And we're just going to copy this code I have here. I'm not going to get too much into the front end code, just a tiny bit here to show you what is going on in terms of the CAPTCHA. So we have that whole login form, which a lot of this is just CSS and taking input from the form. And one of those inputs is the CAPTCHA itself. So if you go down to where the actual CAPTCHA is integrated, it's this reCAPTCHA component from this library that we imported from one of our installations in NPM. So we NPM installed this reCAPTCHA library, and it actually has a reCAPTCHA object here in the HTML, where all we have to do is we just have to pass in the CAPTCHA site key, which we already integrated into the front end, and on change it just sets that variable in the form, and that's how it is sent to the back end. So now that we have that login, we just want to add some simple CSS. And once again, this is all in my Medium article, so you do not have to copy all this because I know it's a lot of code. So we're just going to integrate this login.css for styling. You do not have to worry about that. Then finally, in the app.js, we're just going to remove all of this, and we're just going to put this new code here. So I know we went over a lot. Pretty much we integrated the CAPTCHA in the front end, and we're able to set a CAPTCHA and send it to the back end, which is going to be verified in the middleware before the actual user is able to log in. So if we did everything properly here, first of all, we can go to our backend folder and actually run the server. So hopefully I did everything properly. So nodemon server.js, so it looks like the server is running. Next, in addition to the server, we actually want to run the front end. So I just put the terminal of the server on the right, and we can actually cd into the reCAPTCHA demo folder. And once we're in that folder, this is the front end folder, we can just do npm start. So as opposed to nodemon server.js, we'll just do npm starts. And just give that a moment there. Hopefully I did not miss anything in setting this up. I did this once, so this is the second time I do it. So it is running on another browser. I'm about to show you. Hopefully it renders properly. So it looks like it did render, so I'll just drag this here. So it's similar or exactly the same as to what I showed you at the beginning of this tutorial. So this is the login form, and once again, we'll just enter that email it's expecting. That's password, which is just password, and then we're just going to click I am not a robot. So it looks like it's going to ask us, okay, with motorcycles. And then we can just go ahead and click login. So if we did everything properly, it should verify and it should successfully log us in. Awesome, so it looks like that did set up properly. Do not worry about this message if you just use that example, because we used a generic password and Google Chrome is telling us that that's not a good password. So apparently password is not a good password, but it does not matter. We got the main gist of the video, and we're able to set up reCAPTCHA in just a matter of a few steps within our React applications. So there you have it, everyone. We were able to set up reCAPTCHA in this tutorial. I hope you got it working, and I hope you learned something new about React or Node or reCAPTCHA. If you did, or if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section down below. Even better, if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking or subscribing to this YouTube channel. It would help me out a lot. Let me know what you want to see in the next tutorial, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later. Peace out.